Hey, you guys. I'm Kalina. I'll be leading this hug today. Gonna give everyone a couple more minutes to roll in and we'll get started. If you guys want to say hello to anyone else here, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat, hear where everyone's from. Alrighty, gonna give just another minute or two, see if anyone else rolls in, and then we will dive in. Alrighty, so today we're going to be talking about how to build out your pillar page strategy using HubSpot's Content Hub. Just want to introduce myself. I'm Kalina Rudd. I'm the marketing director here at Next to Me Marketing. Been in the HubSpot ecosystem for 6 or 7 years now, and really excited to share what we know about content today. So as far as our agenda today, we're going to start out with the basics. We'll talk through what some pillar pages and topic clusters are. We'll talk through why they matter. Then we'll get into how to plan out your content strategy using the Content Hub and some ways to measure success. And we'll round out with a Q&A. So if you guys have questions that pop up during this presentation, feel free to just drop them in the chat and we'll circle back for those at the end. So starting off, first we want to make sure everyone understands what a pillar page and a topic cluster really is. So a pillar page is basically a comprehensive resource page that covers a particular topic fairly broadly. It's going to act as that central hub for related content and links out to those in-depth, high-quality blogs, which are going to be aimed for subtopic keywords. These pillar pages are designed to rank for a wide variety of questions a searcher might have about the topic. And then from there, you'll get into the specifics and the nitty gritty in those subtopic keyword pages. Topic clusters are how we talk about ways to organize related content around a central topic. So this generally consists of a pillar content, which is that main hub, It's going to be this, circle here if we're looking at the icon. And then it's going to have a bunch of various cluster content. So that's the blogs or pages that really go in detail into specific subsects of the core pillar topic. And then possibly the most important piece here is the internal links between all of the various pages. It's really important for SEO. It's going to help boost search authority, and it's also going to make it easier for users to find relevant content as they're exploring your website. So a basic example here is if we were to build out a pillar page, we'd pick the topic first, and let's say we do what is content marketing. And then from there, we can determine and identify a couple of subtopics that are relevant to this larger topic. So some ideas could be how to perform a content audit or best practices for SEO blog writing, how to measure the return of content marketing, or even the role of AI in content creation. And again, the key here is making sure that all of this relevant content has that interlinking web structure to make sure that both humans and search engines alike can understand how everything relates to yourself. Alrighty, next up, why do these matter? So big one is overall they improve SEO. When you use a topic cluster and pillar page strategy, it signals that deep expertise to the search engines and shows them that you really know what you're talking about. It also increases the time spent on site and reduces bounce rates, which are really important metrics for SEO. And it covers both broad and long tail keywords, which again captures more of that search traffic, helps you boost your SEO rankings. And finally, it's going to prevent content overlap and cannibalization, because when you have it structured to centralize around that core topic, that allows you to really understand how your content relates to itself and make sure you are creating those topic clusters that really work together rather than thinking of each blog as an individual asset. You're looking at how it all plays together as a whole. They also improve user experience. So first slide was kind of talking about why it matters to computers, and this slide is talking about why it matters to humans. Very similar points, but looking at it from a different lens. So pillar pages help create a really clear content journey that helps visitors really navigate logically through your site when they land on that pillar page. It provides them a very clear next step and helps you direct them to content that's going to nurture them through your website. It also allows you to anticipate some of the related questions a user might have. I'm sure we can all relate that when we're Googling something and you're reading a blog, it is such like a moment of relief when you see something linked that answers the exact question that you had, or you had like a little note like, oh, I want to go learn more about what this means. When we provide that experience outright for people, it really helps make their entire journey a more pleasant experience, and ultimately helps them get to the content and the answers they're looking for faster, which kind of circles back into the whole SEO piece. Third here is it's going to help build trust by demonstrating that deep understanding. So similar for search engines, we want to show them that we know what we're talking about, we're legit, we have experience. Same goes for humans. We want to make sure that people, when they land on their site, they feel like they can really trust what we're telling them, and they trust that they found an expert in whatever the space that they're searching for. And lastly here, it just overall reduces friction caused by disorganized content. Similar to the points above, when you're able to make a very clear path for someone to take once they land on your site through your content that answers their questions in a logical manner, it's going to make the entire experience just overall better and more pleasant for users, which also is going to help SEO and is also going to help ultimately convert more people. So next up, I want to talk through how to plan your content strategy. So first things first, we always suggest starting with a content audit. This basically means taking an inventory of your existing content, seeing what exists, and identifying any content gaps. So you can pull everything into a spreadsheet, organize things by title, and start out by seeing what naturally groups together, what type of topic groups do you have as a baseline, and then you can kind of improve from there. This will also allow you to identify any content gaps as you start grouping things on your sheet. You might see that in this one section, you've got 10 blogs that really talk about this one topic, but maybe you've only got one or maybe zero that talk about something that's really important in your industry. From there, you also want to make sure that you're aligning your content to the various stages of a customer journey. We want to make sure that we're hitting people from, awareness to consideration to decision all throughout the funnel, so that no matter what stage someone finds your content at, it's able to resonate with them and help nurture them to that next step. Once you've got an idea of what type of content exists, you'll then want to get into some of the search volume metrics, see what are people searching for? Do you have content that relates to that? Check out what your competitors are doing, and just overall check for relevancy. Like, is what you're speaking about relevant to who you are as a business? Does it help people make decisions? Does it help people learn more about your offer or service, or what's needed to understand your offer and service? And from there, you'll be able to get a clearer picture of where you stand and where you want to go and how to get there. From there, you're going to want to identify your pillar topics. So you might have started getting a couple ideas as you go through your content audit. You might be noticing some of those topics that naturally group together, or some areas that you don't really have any content. So as you're going through this exercise, you're going to want to ask yourself, what core problems is your audience searching for? And do you have content related to that? What topics are central to your product or service? Which keywords are driving the most traffic? All of those questions are going to help you pinpoint what your core pillar topics really should be, and define which ones are going to make the biggest impact for searchers. From there, you kind of just build out the content calendar. So that sounds a little bit easier said than done. But basically, once you've identified what you want your pillar topics to be, if you already have blog content around it, that's great. But if you don't, you can take some time to think through, and maybe even just open up a Google Doc or a Word doc, whatever, and brain dump what you think goes into this main topic. So that example a few slides back here, for content marketing. Sit down and think about what goes into content marketing. What questions do you have? What questions did you have at the beginning of your journey in whatever industry you're a part of? And start listing out some blog ideas. From there, you can kind of map those ideas to, again, the various topics you've identified, decide if any are more relevant for videos, or maybe some would warrant an infographic. Basically start mapping out what topics align with each with each pillar. And from there, you can identify what types of content you want each topic to really be presented as. A big thing to really be paying attention to here as you're building out your content calendar is mapping out the opportunities for that internal linking, because again, that's going to create that web that's really powerful for getting people where you want it to go, and also showing the search engines that you guys know what you're talking about. A couple of common mistakes that you want to avoid during this strategy process is make sure you're not choosing topics that are too broad or too niche. You're going to want to find that sweet spot right in the center. When you pick a topic that's too broad, it's not going to allow you to really get as in-depth as you need to hit some of those keywords and those rankings. And if it's too niche, if it's too specific, you're not going to be able to zoom out enough to get that higher level pillar page. So try to find somewhere in the middle. Again, look at what your competitors are doing, do some research using some tools we'll get into a little bit later, and see what options come up. And then you can kind of ask yourself, do we have the opportunity to create enough content to make this make sense? And when you're asking yourself that question, it'll kind of come to be clear on if you need to either zoom out a little bit or zoom in a little bit. Another common mistake, and this is across any digital asset, is forgetting to optimize your cluster content. Kind of gets into the whole one and done on the bottom here. Basically, you want to make sure that you're consistently optimizing over time, taking the data and the information that you're learning from how people interact with your content, how people are finding your content, and make improvements from there. You can learn that maybe someone's not getting all the way down to the page, to the bottom of the page. So for some reason they're leaving. Maybe the content is not engaging enough. Maybe you're not providing enough opportunities for them to learn more, or maybe they're not clicking on anything at all. Maybe some of the topics that you have linked out aren't quite resonating. And all of this gives you opportunity to learn and improve and see what works. And then here, neglecting internal links. Again, I've said it before, but one of the most important pieces of your pillar page strategy is making sure that once you have the content that all relates to itself, creating those internal links that allow search engines to really understand how it all interrelates. Because ultimately, that is the goal here of creating a pillar page strategy, is creating content that all relates together and creates this larger web of understanding. So I'm going to talk here a little bit more about how to organize your pillar pages in HubSpot Content Hub. It's relatively simple, but once you've created your pillar page, and you can then build out your topic clusters and organize it visually using HubSpot's topic tool. So the first piece is, again, creating that pillar page, getting it all set up. And once you have that asset ready, you can go into HubSpot's SEO tool and then into their topics tool, and you can just create a topic. It'll ask you to basically assign a page to your identified topic, which then you can attach the URL of your pillar page. From there, similar deal, it'll ask you to add supporting content, and basically just means adding your various pieces into this web, into this system of organizing that HubSpot has. And that helps you visually see how everything plays nicely together, where you have opportunities to create more content. Maybe something's a little light, maybe something's a little heavy. All of that gives you that visual representation of what your pillar strategy is really looking like. And again, make sure you are confirming that all the pages interlink together where it's relevant. A couple of best practices for internal linking. Again, you always want to make sure that that cluster content, those more specific in-depth blogs, are linking back to the pillar page and vice versa. You want to have that like dual relationship going on there. You also want to make sure that you're including additional internal links on all of your cluster content. So for example, on one of those subtopic blogs, yes, link back to the pillar page, but are there other topics that you mention in your blog that you have another blog about? Can you add a link to that? Is there a page on your website that's relevant here? Again, building up that web, making it really strong so that Google and search engines and people alike are all able to see how well you know the topic. Another piece is to use descriptive anchor text, making sure that any links on the page are really clear, really clearly state, what they're linking out to. You want to make sure that before people click on a link, they know what they're going to get. And you want to make sure that once they do click on the link, what they get matches their expectation. And last here, periodically audit links for relevance and accuracy. We all know how quickly things can get out of date. So building time into your calendars, whether it's on a quarterly basis, would be ideal, but at least every 6 months to check your content, see if anything could be updated, see if any links are broken, make sure everything is still relevant. And that also gives you the opportunity to kind of dive into some of the performance data, see if there's any optimizations on a broader scale that you want to make to your strategy. Alrighty, so talking about measuring success. A couple of key metrics that you want to pay attention to are starting off with organic traffic. How much organic traffic are you getting to your pillar pages and to your subtopic pages? That's really the goal of these pages. So that's going to be one of the more important metrics to pay attention to, is seeing is what I'm putting out here actually driving traffic to my website. The next piece here is going to be time on page. So again, this is going to give you information onto how relevant people are finding your content. Are they finding it helpful? Are they staying on the site for a long period of time? And are they jumping to read other additional content as they learn? That really is going to give you insight into how successful and relevant the content you're creating really is for people. Another piece here is to check the number of backlinks. So again, just making sure that you have everything linked appropriately. Key metrics for ranking improvements as well is just overall keeping an eye on what keyword you're ranking for. Throughout this process, maybe you've identified a handful of keywords that you want to rank for, which has informed your blog topics. you'll want to make sure that you're keeping tabs on where you're ranking, so that if you jump from, maybe you're currently sitting at spot 13 and you have a goal of jumping up to spot 3 in organic search, set some reminders for yourself to look in and see, is your ranking going up? Is it going down? And staying on top of that. That also allows you to see any, sleepers that maybe you weren't expecting to be ranking for, but now are. And again, gives you a better insight into what are people searching for that's driving them to your site, and is the content that they're being matched, or is the content that they're being met with, is that matching their expectation? Lastly, here is leads or conversions from the pillar page. So while yes, we love to generate traffic, what everyone loves more is to generate a lead. And if a pillar page is going to be doing its job, it's going to ultimately be driving people to those conversion points. So whether they convert directly on the pillar page, maybe you have a CTA at the bottom, or they end up linking out to, maybe it's a guide that's relevant, or they subscribe to your blog, or they go directly to schedule a call. You'll want to see how many of those conversion points happened from people that their first entrance was on your pillar page. Again, that gives you insight into who's really coming to the page, and is it doing its job of driving qualified leads. A couple helpful tools throughout this process to help you guys make informed decisions and make sure that you are capitalizing on the right keywords and the right terms. First is HubSpot Analytics. They have some really fabulous SEO tools built right in. You can see anything from website traffic to lead conversions and all the above. So if you don't have any dashboards built up, I highly encourage you to do that. You can build out overall marketing dashboards, but you can also build out content specific dashboards and really cater these to your specific needs. And this is going to allow you to, at a glance, see how things are performing, and makes it a little easier for you to stay on top of things. It builds or breaks down the beast into a little bit more bite-sized chunks. And when you have a place that you can go that gives you really quickly and clearly a high-level overview of how something's performing, it's more likely that you're going to stay on top of that, look at that more regularly, and ultimately catch more opportunities. Another tool is Google Search Console. This is going to give you insight into keywords and rankings, and that can inform your strategy, again, whether you're missing opportunities or maybe you want to learn about a keyword that you're ranking for that you aren't really sure about. That's a great tool. And then we love SEMrush for all things SEO. You can do so much within that tool as far as researching, building out topics, building out keywords, really analyzing traffic data, and making sure that you're spending your time and energy on topics and keywords that are ultimately going to be driving enough traffic. If a keyword exists that drives, 1,000, 2,000 searches versus something that only drives 25 per month, you'll probably want to lean more towards the higher traffic one, again, depending on keyword difficulty and how big of a player you are in the industry. Alrighty, that is pretty much the whole deal. Are there any questions that you guys have for me that I can answer for you? Feel free to pop them in the chat, or if you guys want to turn your camera on, we can talk face to face as well. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that you guys think it was clear. Angela, I see you say, how do you structure a good pillar page strategy? I'll go back a couple slides. You might have missed it here. But basically the short of it is you want to start with a content audit, look through the content that you have that exists and identify any gaps, and do some research into search volume competitiveness to prioritize those topics. And then from that research, you'll identify your core pillar topics, ask yourself a couple questions to make sure you're really narrowing in on the right spaces. And from there, build out a content calendar based on relevant blog topics. Alrighty, so looking through here. How do you structure? Oh, we just did that one. Can you please talk more about best practices with content? Laura would be happy to, but can you give me a little bit more of a specific question there? I'll be able to answer you better if I know a little bit more what angle you're going for. Michael says, can you tell me the difference about HubSpot where'd it go? HubSpot Analytics versus Google Search Console? Yeah, versus between. Okay, so HubSpot Analytics is within your portal, and that's going to give you insight into your specific, your website, your traffic, like all of your specific instances, and it's going to give you personalized data. Whereas Google Search Console is going to give you more research based. You can look into other keywords that are out, online. It's not just specifically catered to yourself. So HubSpot Analytics basically gives you insight into how you're performing, whereas Google Search Console can give you insights into how keywords in general are performing. And that's more of a research tool versus HubSpot Analytics is more of a performance tool. That's very high level, but I hope answered your question. Okay, pillar page. Sorry, chat is being kind of funky. Do we have a template for the audit? If you would like to send me an email, I can share some tips with you, Dylan. I'm going to pop my email in the chat here at the end. So feel free to shoot us an email and we can help you talk through what that looks like. Alrighty. Hold on. Okay, Caitlin, I'd like to see an example of the actual content of the pillar page and cluster page. Yeah, for sure. We can include some examples in our follow-up email, but an example that HubSpot has that I came across, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. So HubSpot has this really great blog, and let me pull up an example. See if I can share the right screen. Yeah, okay. So we can include this link in our follow-up resources, but this is going to be a great resource for you guys all. It's got some really great examples here. And let's just open up this one. So this is an example for brand awareness. And basically it's a super in-depth long form blog, if you want to call it that, but basically it's very text heavy. It has a lot of information here that speaks pretty high level. And then from here, it's going to link out. So it's good to make sure you're structuring these in a way that makes it really easy to skim through and read and understand. We have all short attention spans and we're skimmers more than readers now. So it's really important to make sure you're using your H1s, your H2s, your H3s, making sure you structure it in a way that makes it visually engaging so that people can quickly find the areas they're looking for. And then from there, they can link out to various pages here. Alrighty. What level of SEMrush do you need to get the information you discussed? I am not a SEMrush pricing expert, but so you might want to check me on this, but I know they have a free level of the tool that gives you like a certain amount of essentially queries, and that can at least get you started. But if you're going to really want to get the full value of the tool, you'll likely need to sign up for a paid version. How do you decide whether to use content for a cluster page or blog? Great question. So that's kind of going to depend on how in-depth is it really. And this is why it's really important to make sure that you are starting from that high level perspective when you're building out your strategy and performing that content audit, because that'll allow you to see, do I have a bunch of really in-depth topics that could feed up into a pillar page? Or do I have blogs that are a little bit more high level, less in depth, that I need to flesh out and build out into that pillar page and build out into that subtopic? So deciding whether or not to use a specific topic for a cluster page versus, for a pillar page versus a blog really comes down to where it fits in relation to your specific pillar page. It's all about like in relation. So if you don't know what pillar the topic is meant to be related to, it's going to be really hard for you to decide if it should be a blog or a pillar page. Um, Caitlin says, what is the overall goal of the pillar page? To link to the more specific cluster pages, drive to CTAs. So the overall goal of the pillar page is to generate traffic and get people onto your site, keep them engaged on your site, answer their questions, and provide a really clear content path for them. And ultimately, yes, we want to drive conversions. So making sure that in addition to having all of the relevant content that interlinks properly, making sure that that content also has optimized CTAs for whatever your conversion opportunity is. Make sure that those conversions opportunities are relevant to the topic you're speaking to. Let's say that maybe you're a HubSpot agency and you're writing a pillar page on how to use HubSpot. If you have another offer that's talking about like website design, but you have a CTA that also talks about a HubSpot audit, it would make sense to include the HubSpot audit CTA on this pillar page experience rather than the website, because that's what's relevant to the people who are searching for this content. So it all kind of comes back to making sure that what you're putting on these pages, both from a content and a CTA standpoint, matches the expectation and the needs of the people who are searching for it. Who markets several services? What is the best way to create pillar pages based on many services? That's actually kind of a great place to be in terms of pillar pages, because that allows you to build out multiple pillar pages. You could There's not a limit on how many pillar pages you can have. So if you have let's call it 3 separate services, you could probably have a couple like at least one pillar page per service, depending on what the service really is. But it basically allows you to put things into columns, into groups, and build out from there. Within a topic cluster, is it possible to have too many links? Seems like you wouldn't necessarily want them to exit your page. Um, Too many links, it depends. Overall, you want to make sure that the content you're creating is providing value. You don't want to just be creating content just for the sake of it. You want to make sure that the content you're creating is relevant and has a use. So that right there should help you make sure that you're creating intentional content. And then when it comes to linking, similar deal. You don't want it to be, just like so totally stuffed full with links. You want to make sure that the links pop up where it's relevant. You don't want to force feed, same way you don't want to force feed keywords into a page. You want to make sure that it feels organic, it feels natural, because at the end of the day, it's people who are using these pages. Yes, search engines are scanning these pages, they're the ones reading it. To serve it to those people, but ultimately it's the human on the end of the screen who is going to be reading these content or these pillar pages, and that's who you want to make sure that you are helping direct to the right places. And second part of your question, seems like you wouldn't necessarily want them to link or want them to exit your page. The goal is always, of course, to keep them on your website. Whether or not they leave the pillar page, that's totally fine. And if they're reading the pillar page and they see a link that's relevant to a question they have and they go read that blog, that's awesome. That means we've done our job. That means we've anticipated a question they had, provided relevant content, and then hopefully they stayed on that additional piece of content, read through. Maybe there was a CT on that page and they converted there. But the goal is to make sure that people are able to find the information they need. Caitlin, yeah, there will be a recording send out after this, so you can watch the recording in full and get all that information. That goes for everyone. You guys can save these recordings and revisit them after the fact if you didn't have time to watch the whole thing right now. Awesome. I think we're about wrapping up here then. I'll stick around here for another couple minutes if you guys have any additional questions. And like I said, I will drop my email down here if you guys want to follow up on anything afterwards.